Hi guys, my name is Nikolay Kostov and today I'm gonna show you how to create your own custom testing framework using Visual Studio and C# language. I'm starting the Visual Studio and the first thing I will create is a new class library project which I will call Nikolay testing framework.core. This will be the main required library for all the unit tests that I will create later using this testing framework. Okay, now I'm gonna create a new class which I'll call test class attribute. With this attribute I'm going to decorate all of the unit test classes which we will create later. I'll make this class public and make it inherit from attribute and from the attribute class. And the other thing I will create will be a class which I'll call test method attribute, which will decorate all the test methods in my test classes. Again, it will inherit from the attribute class, and one exception which will be thrown every time I find some wrong assertion or something which breaks the unit tests in my testing framework. Okay, I'll call this test exception, this class, and this class will inherit from exception class, and again I'm gonna make it public. Okay, let's build this, and the rebuild succeeded. Now I will create a test runner. First interface I test runner, which will contain all the methods required for my test runner. Let's think for a moment. We need we need methods like a void method, or I'll create another class which will be called test, and this class will contain information about the unit test, like property with the name of the test, string name, and a property with the status of the test, like bool, which I'll call success. Okay, and my test runner will accept, we'll have method which will return list of tests, and I'll call it run tests, and the only parameter which this method will accept will be the path to the test library. Path to test library. Okay, and now I'm going to create a class which will implement this interface. The class will be called test runner and will implement a test runner interface. Okay, with the only method to run tests. This method will use a reflection, will extract all the unit tests from my library and we run them and return the results. of them. Okay, first I will load the assembly. I will create a new assembly from the method assembly. Assembly is a class which is part of system.reflection namespace. I will create its static method load from, which accepts path to test library, which I have as a parameter to this method. Okay, and now I will extract all the types, all the classes from this assembly, and I will search for the classes which implement, which have test class attribute in it. Okay, and types are equal to library or assembly that get types. This will return a list of types, and I will extract all of the types which are classes and are public, and the other requirement for this class is to have custom attribute, any custom attribute which is of type test class attribute dot any attribute goes into attribute that attribute type equals to type of my test class attribute. Okay, for each class which have these requirements, these I'll call class test classes. Okay, I've missed a semicolon. Okay, and now for each of these classes, test class in test classes, I will for each of their methods equals test class classes that test class that method get methods. Okay, and this method should be decorated with my custom attribute of type test method attribute type equals type of test method attribute, and I'm gonna assign them to test methods variable, and for each of these test methods okay, I will run it after creating an instance of my class and run these methods, and then I will save the result of the unit tests. First I will create a list of test results which will be equal to a new list of test. Okay, and I will return this value, list of test results, after the end of the method. Okay, well, first I will create an instance of my test class, and I will assign its value to activator that create instance of test class. After creating an instance, I can create the instance before for eaching the methods here, and if any test methods are available, then I'll create the instance and for each them. And after creating the instance, I will call the instance, the method over this instance, test method that invoke over the object I have created, instance of test class, and passing parameters. I will not pass any parameters, I will pass no. Okay. If nothing happens, no exception is thrown, everything is okay, and I will add in the list of, or something better, I will, for each test method, I will create a test result, which will be new test, and test result dot name will be string dot format of the class name dot the method name. The class name is test class dot name, and the method name is method test method dot name. Okay. Now I have to set the test result success state. If I invoke the method without any problems, without any exceptions, I will set the test result that success to true. In case of any exception, I will assign test result to that success to false, and I'll create a new property here, property of type string, which will be called error message. In case of any error, this error message will contain the exact problem we encountered. We'll catch only the test exception, and in case of test exception, the test result dot error message will be equal to test exception dot message. Okay. Exception. Okay, we have a spell mistake, a typo. Control Shift and B, and everything is building successfully. In case of any other error, we will add here test exception, and we'll concatenate with the test exception dot message. In case of any other exception, we will again create a string.format with the exception type and the exception message. Okay. Test exception that we have custom exception here, so I'll call it exception, and the type of this exception dot get type dot name, and the second parameter I will pass to the string format in order to create a user-friendly text message is the exception dot message property. Okay, I will build this exception, another typo, and everything is building. Now we have a test runner. We have attributes, test class attribute and test method attribute. We have a test exception class, and the last thing we gonna need is assert public static assert class, which will contain helper assert methods, just like Visual Studio Team Test Framework. Okay, assert public static assert class with the public static void method called is true, which accepts bool parameter of type bool, which will be called expression, and string message in case of error message. Okay, if the expression is not true, throw a new test exception with the message error message. I will create a new constructor here, public test exception, which accepts message and calls the base constructor with this message with empty body. Okay, and here I will pass the error message in the test exception constructor. Error message. Okay, built, everything is building, and one last helper method, are equal, which accepts one object, and second object, and again a error message, which by default will be string.empty, or just no. Okay, and if object 1 is not equal to object 2, then throw a new test exception with the given error message here. Okay, again I'll build, everything is building successfully. Now we have a almost fully functional testing framework, which have test classes, test attributes, test methods, and assert class with assert methods, covering almost all of the most of the functionality we will need to create a unit test. Of course, the other testing frameworks are a lot of more functional compared to our framework, but this will be enough for our needs to show how to create such framework. Okay, what happens when is true fails or are equals fails? Well, then we will throw a test exception, which will cause our unit test to fail and its success to be marked as false. Okay, before running my console application, I have to do some fixes in my code. First, here I'm checking if expected is not equal to actual, but actually I'm trying to compare their values with the not equal sign, which is wrong. I should call equals to the first object and pass the second object, and equals will return information about whether the two values are equal, and of course I'll add a exclamation mark before the expression in order to check if these values are not equal to each other. Okay, and something I also missed here is that in the test runner I create the test result, but actually I never add this test result to the list of test results. So after trying to execute the test, I should just add the test result to the list. Okay, add the test result into the list of test results. Another thing we have to consider is that in our sum tests we are comparing the long value of sum, here returned by the sum method of summator, with an integer. If the sum is the long value of 4, these two will never be equal. We will compare object of type long with object of type integer, which will always return false. So we have to compare long with long here. So I will compare my long sum with the long literal of 4. This is 4, but 4 of type long, and this is 0 of type int, and now it's 0 of type long. Okay, now if I run my console application, I see that my two tests, sum of 2 and 2 is 4 and sum of 2 zeros is 0, are passing with success state. Okay, that's all folks, thanks for watching, hope see you soon. My name is Nikolay Kostov.